Eat to live rather than live to eat. Guilty. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of doing that complete opposite. There have been so many instances in my lifetime where I constantly focused on living to eat rather than eating to live. And I would eat and eat and eat, even when I wasn't hungry. Have you ever been guilty of that at one point or the other in your life? And for me, 9 times out of 10, when this occurred with me, it happened when I was doing more of that nervous type of eating or eating out of boredom rather than because I was actually feeling some kind of hunger pangs. And there have been even instances in my life where I was watching TV or a movie and the thought of food wasn't even in my head. And all of a sudden, I saw a commercial on TV, or there was a segment in a movie or a TV program that I was watching in which food was shown, or some calorie rich dessert was observed on the screen. And immediately, I wanted whatever was being advertised, or any type of food that tickled my fancy at that time. In some instances, I would get up from my seat right away and I'd hurriedly rush off to the kitchen, to the pantry, or I went wherever I had a supply of food stashed away. I would then make myself something to eat, or I'd get myself a snack to eat no matter how late it was at night. Mm, mm, mm. And I would then return to my comfortable seat and I commenced to chowing down on that mouth-watering delicacy as I continued watching that TV or that movie, etc., etc., etc. And on those few occasions where my cupboard or my refrigerator had a minimal supply of food in it, or nothing was stored there that fit my taste buds, I would then order out, hoping that that delivery person would bring my food to me with a quickness. Other times, I would just jump in my car and I would drive like crazy to reach the closest restaurant that served the type of food that I loved. Mexican food is my favorite. If I were lucky enough, I would get exactly what I craved for, and I would end up indulging it like a ravenous wolf. Unfortunately, though, after I consumed all of the food on my plate or in my bowl, I would pay dearly for my transgressions by having a restless night in which I experienced heartburn, indigestion, gas, or you name it. And of course, I deserved the punishment because I was the one that willingly and foolishly gave in to my food cravings while throwing caution to the wind. And of course, when I weighed in the next morning, the scale told the whole truth. And I hid my face in shame when I discovered that I had an extra pound or two added to my waist or my thighs that wasn't there before. I have now come to the realization that a lot of the time, there was always a culprit for me getting the urge to eat when I wasn't hungry or craving food that I might not normally eat. It finally dawned on me that there was often subliminal messages in those commercials or those movies or those TV shows that I watched. Specifically, the advertisers put hidden messages in those commercials, in those programs, in those movies that I was watching, encouraging me to go and eat something. But those messages couldn't be seen with my naked eye. On the other hand, my subconscious mind could see these images. This in turn triggered a response from me, which caused me to rush off and get that food, that drink, or that dessert that I craved, ignoring the fact that there would be consequences for my actions. Have you also noticed that the marketing experts use a lot of color in their commercials? Sometimes they use these flashy lights, or the person or persons eating the food in the commercials or the TV program chewed the food as though it was the best thing since sliced bread. And oftentimes, the product creators use popular megastars as the models to promote their food and other items, even though they themselves do not use those products or items or foods. Not to mention the fact that the mega stars themselves know that it isn't good for us, but they just don't care. And unfortunately, in my case, a lot of times I ended up getting hooked against my better judgment. Now, when it comes to fast food restaurants or dine-in restaurants, the same type of advertising campaign is used. But I believe that they take it a step further. I'm at a point where I truly believe that some of the ingredients in foods at these restaurants are placed there to get us addicted to them without a care for our general health. And I've gone to my fair share of drive-through restaurants and eat-in restaurants. I have also, without an ounce of guilt, picked out at those smorgasbord restaurants quite a bit in my life. And I believe this statement to be true that food just doesn't taste like it used to anymore. I'm also at a point in my life where I believe that food is not even real food anymore. When you consider that there are so many entrees, pastries, beverages, and the list goes on and on and on, where it's made with ingredients filled with GMOs, which is genetically modified organisms, and they provide us with no real health benefits. On the contrary, this food is harmful to our health. And it's not a surprise to me that there is a rise in the number of cases of people diagnosed with diabetes, hypertension, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and other major illnesses. There is one more thing worth mentioning. It's astonishing to me that we now live in a world where seedless grapes and seedless oranges are at an all-time high. To be honest, I don't even think that I can find any grapes or oranges where I live that have seeds in them anymore. The powers that be have been so adamant about placing some seedless cucumbers out there too, and seedless watermelons on the market, to name just a few of them. Can you imagine that? Also, let me not fail to mention the fact that they are often using false advertising on the list of ingredients in foods quite frequently, or they put ingredients in foods that you can't even pronounce, much less spell them. Who does that? So, what is the remedy for all of this? If you are a person like me that wants to commit yourself to eating to live rather than living to eat, I would venture on to say that your best bet is just to grow your own food if you have the means to do so, and just eat at home. If you do this, at least you'll know what you're actually eating in the food that you're eating. Also, you might want to try eating more organic food and strive to eat more of a plant-based diet. Take meat out of your diet completely, because a lot of the meat today is filled with growth hormones and other harmful products that are injected into them to make them grow bigger a whole lot faster. Not to mention the fact that these animals are butchered in such an inhumane way that I believe that we often take on the emotions that these animals feel just before they were killed. Another thing that we must get rid of is the sweet, calorie-filled drinks, and just drink plain, ordinary spring water. And by all means, we must refrain from eating the sweet, rich desserts too. Instead, we should reach for some fresh organic strawberries or blueberries or apples, avocados, or something like that. And let that be our dessert. And of course, our bodies could benefit from us adding fresh organic vegetables to our diet on a daily basis. You might also want to consider doing some fasting occasionally, whether you're abstaining from eating any type of food or drinking any kind of fluids, or you might do an intermittent fast from time to time where you have those periods of eating and other periods where you're eating nothing. And moreover, it's extremely important that you do a regular detox to rid your bodies of those toxins that come from some of the foods that we have eaten, or the pollutants in the air, or the EMFs or radiation that we come in contact with from time to time through our use of cellular devices, TVs, microwaves, things like that. And I'm convinced, and I truly believe that When you continuously eat to live on a daily basis using the best of the ingredients, hopefully organic, it will become a habit with you after at least 21 days. And why not start that journey today? And I believe the sooner you do it, the better for you. So at the end of this video, I would just like to say that I hope you have a beautiful remainder of this day. And until next time, this is Proud Melanated Queen saying goodbye.